Good morning, Kay.
Good morning, Fee. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, KayFeinators. And
Yes.
welcome to another exciting episode of KayFeine Conversation, where we discuss hot topics and, most importantly, Love Marriage Huntsville. Love
Mm-hmm.
and Marriage Huntsville. And we'll be discussing season 6, episode 3, Hostile
Mm-hmm.
Tisha Baby. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but can I say, I was listening to our last week's episode. I was listening to it before we got on because I don't typically listen to our episode. Once it's out there, I just let it go. Those are my thoughts and my feelings. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I got across exactly what I wanted to say about this footballer Akimi and his soon-to-be ex-wife, a
We're
book.
back on that.
We're back on it because I did say I wanted to hear from others because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I clearly expressed the reason why I was so outraged. And the point is, and again, our platform is about relationships, trying to understand them, understanding that we're all individual. And what I have learned, key components that if you're looking for a long lasting, meaningful relationship, there are certain things that you have to embody to want those things. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
communication, of course, having your beliefs and your value system clearly outlined, so when you meet someone, you understand whether you and that person are aligned or not and can work towards a goal. But the thing that incensed me about that story is to understand that in this day and age, it men and some women, because there are women who was in support of this behavior, to believe that it's okay to deceive your spouse, to hide assets. So what's the point of relationships? If what why get into one if at the end of it your partner is deceiving you, and if anything happens, you're left out in the cold? You might as well go and build your own thing and stay by yourself. Why are people wanting to be in relationships but don't feel like they should be in support of the person they're in that relationship with? You know, if this football player got hurt on the court, everyone would expect that woman to stand by his side and nurse him. And I remember a couple of years ago, this PCA was doing a TikTok, and she says, and she was speaking out to men in their 40s and 50s and 60s who are laying in the hospital beds having strokes, heart attack, and nobody comes to visit. So how is it okay that you've said to this person, it's me and you, we get married, only to find out that you're hiding assets, the people that you say that you love and care for? If anything happens to you, they get nothing. How
Mm-hmm.
does that make sense?
The only thing that I can say to that, or the only thing I want to comment on that, because I think I said everything I had to say on the last episode, but there's consequences to our choices. And when you make a choice to enter into a partnership or marriage with the knowledge of knowing that this person um they not mature enough to handle a real grown folks
Mhm.
relationship, and that's just the consequences of it. You
I
get somebody
disagree.
who's immature, who don't understand the importance that this is a partnership, that I should not be
And what
having my
and
assets.
what qualifies maturity?
Well, it just depends. It ain't no certain age limit, but as you talk to a person, as you get to know a person, and that's the whole purpose of dating someone, to get to know that person. And you cannot tell me that this grown 30-some-year-old woman, upon entering into a relationship with somebody at 19, that she did not understand that he wasn't mature enough to enter into a relationship with someone of my age. It's just what it is. I was talking to my nephew the other day, who's 22, by the way, and we were having this conversation, and it was so clear to me, like, he don't get it. And the reason he don't get it is he's 22. And and I say this all the time, and it was so funny because I was listening to a TED talk the other week, and it was talking about how the brain, because I made this statement last week, and then it was funny that a TED talk talked about the same thing, that women mature faster than men. But this woman went down to the science of it, and she was talking about the brain development, and that's the reason that women mature faster than men. So when you're having a conversation, I clearly understood that he had no clue and understood when he's 22, he was actually older than 19. And so if you're getting to know somebody, and it's just not even that particular couple, it could be me and my husband. It's a 10-year age difference. When you enter into a relationship, you just about know what this person believes, how they think, but you make a conscious choice that say, I'm gonna either overlook this and move forward, or I'm not gonna overlook this because it's not gonna work for me. Unfortunately, a lot of times as women, we are so impressed with the outer appearance or the finances or whatever it is that impresses us, that we decide to move forward in spite of the red flags. And when we make that choice to move forward in spite of the red flags, then that's when down the road consequences come in. I'm going to give you a prime example of that. I clearly knew when I married my husband that he wasn't big on education. Most of them, they went to high school, but they were mostly men that work with their hands and very good at it. And they make a good living, by the way. But one thing I was very clear of, he wasn't big on education because it was never talked about in his home. It was never forced that, hey, they should go to college. None of his brothers and sisters have ever attended a college. And so when we had our daughter, Jalen, and I wanted her to go to private school because I wanted her to have the best education. He could not understand that. All he said was, why spend all of this money on a public education when she can go to school free? I knew that before I married him that this was going to be an issue, but I chose to look past that. But then when it was time when she reached a particular age, because we did put her in a Christian school, but then once she hit junior high school, she ended up going to public school, but I already knew this. I just chose to look past it, but then the consequences hit me because my baby had to go to a public school. This was no brand new surprise. So I'm sure with this lady, she knew this guy wasn't mature enough to think about assets and, partnership and what a real partnership looked like, which entails not hiding stuff from your spouse. She knew this wasn't a mature person she was entering into a partnership with.
For me, all of that is moot. It's not about how old he is. It's the fact that he said he entered in this relationship with this woman. The issue I am having, and quite a few men, at least men with a couple of brain cells, are saying it's not even about the money. It's the fact of the hiding of assets, and men and women thinking this is okay, irrespective of their age. She could be 100 and him be 20. Irrespective of all that, you've entered into a marriage with the thoughts and saying and discussion of building a life together. And in the end, the deception of deceiving that person in hiding assets. How is that okay? Why would anyone want to get married?
Okay.
Why not just shackle with someone?
A lot of times we enter into these covenant partnerships, not really realizing what we have entered into. That's just the truth of the matter. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that's truth. It's so many people that embark upon a marriage and don't really know, they like the whole wedding and the glitz and glamour of it all and the walking down the aisle, but they really don't know what it entails. And it's really not until they, unfortunately, and I'm not saying that's all cases, but most cases, then they entering into it and then they start facing all these problems. And then they realize, man, I should have asked this question, or I should have waited, or I should have did this. And they just, unfortunately, they entered into it, and sometimes they're not even 19. You have 30 and 40-year-olds entering into marriage and not really realizing the work that it takes. Like you said, the trust and all of that, they really don't have a knowledge of it until something happens. And then it's almost like training on the job, so to speak, but you're already in it.
And I think those are the things that need to be discussed more often, because the journey I'm on, for me, no one ever said to me, this is what a relationship should look like. These are the questions. You're trying to figure it out. But if you don't,
exactly.
These are the things that should be taught in high school. And I forgot to mention, in
Europe.
You're
proving your own point, Kay. You're proving your own point. When you just said, nobody ever told me these things. These things should be taught in high school.
I agree.
So you don't know what gets into a partnership.
That's not proving a point. My point is, no one teaches us about, if I could finish my point that I was trying to make, we need to start talking about these things earlier and earlier with our children. And we need to teach them about relationships in high school. I don't think you should wait to get out in the real world and go through a few relationships before you even understand that, or you take a course if you do go to college, because we do have a lot of bad qualities that people keep bringing. And of course, you're only going to bring what you know until life hits you in the face, and then you may have to make some adjustments. But again, he was 20 something when they got married. I don't think the age mattered. The point I am trying to drive home, and I hope people are getting that, it's the deception. That's what it is for me. And people who you say that you care about and you love, this is what you've done. And men, giving high fives across the stratosphere saying, this is great, this is one for the team. This is not one for the team. This is a knock on relationships, and it's going to affect everyone. Once there's a wider speaking about this what, it's okay, girl. Once there's a lot more conversations about this, but this is not a good look. And age has nothing to do with it. It's about how we treat.
Does.
It has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with relationships and how we treat people, who we say we care about.
Yeah, but age plays a role into that, unfortunately.
I don't think so.
I respectfully disagree, because sometimes you don't know how to treat people, or you don't know how to behave until you go through life and you live life experiences and you go through situations, especially if you're not taught at home. There were a lot of things that I weren't taught at home until I didn't learn early, and I'm talking about simple stuff, whether it was how to treat people, whether it was how to talk to people, whether it was about my finances. I was not taught those things. So you go in and you don't know. And again, you have had this talk many times. Sometimes you think dysfunction is functional because you weren't taught that at home. So age does play an account, plays a role in it, as well as how you were raised plays a role in it. So I think there's many factors that play a thing in it. But I do agree with you that it should be something taught in school. Life lessons, not only about relationships, but also finances. A lot of our children get out of school, they don't know anything about bank accounts, they don't know anything about investing. I know when my boys graduated high school, they didn't even know how to write a check, because we don't really write checks anymore, but back then it was something big. They didn't know. So I think it's a lot of life skills that should be taught in high school, but unfortunately it's not.
It's wild to me that people think it's okay to enter into a relationship and it's okay to treat people that way. And if you had never had nobody to teach you,
if you never had nobody to teach you, like when I became a wife and I was 21 in my first marriage, really didn't know what I was getting into, nor did I have an example set before me, because my mom, she didn't get married until in her 50s. And so I had been married longer than my mom. And so nobody in our family had a successful marriage. So who was going to teach me but me just getting in it and navigating through it and learning as I go? It wasn't taught to me. So I didn't enter knowing. And I was 21.
And we differ on that part, because you feel a marriage is successful until death do us part. I say any relationship you can definitely learn from. And when it ends, it's not to say it was a failure, because hopefully you've learned something. So sometimes we're just in things for a season and a reason, and hopefully not just going through life just barreling through and not taking stock of what you're experiencing and how you can put it into words to inform whether it's the younger people in your family or just people in general. But anyway, I'm not going to stay too long on Akimi and Abu, because when it comes down to it, she's already moved on. She got a man with money. So good luck to her. Good luck to him. But another point is, if anything ever happened to him, they would expect her to stay and suck it up and deal with it. Well, she would get all this. And you know what? I think that's where, too, a lot of jealousy is coming from women who's saying, serve her right. I'm sure that's what it comes down to, that you can't see how wrong this is for someone to treat another human that they're married to and who's had a couple of kids for him. It's really wrong. It's terrible. No wonder I've always shied away from relationships, because I don't want to have to figure out your nuances. You're telling me the sky is blue and I'm still here wondering, is it really blue? It's just all wrong. It's wrong. It's terrible. If this is what it's come down to having relationships, the society is in a terrible place if this is what it's coming down to.
I think you took in one incident.
It's not one. It's more. it's more and more relationships. It's echoing the same thing. There's no more give and take. Even men are the outcry. Women don't want to have kids. Who would want to have your children if this is what they're going to have to deal with?
Mm-hmm.
I was mentioning this to Kevin.
I still didn't read this story, but you're telling me now that the lady has moved on. She's not even with him.
No, of course. Why should she? He's out there in the middle of the
I
night.
know, because after we talked about it
People.
last week, I never looked at the story.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe they were still
I
together.
saw something come across. They were saying, don't feel sorry for her because she's already she has a boyfriend. I don't know how true it is. I don't know these people. I was saying to Kevin about this kind of treatment, and usually it comes down to if a man can't sleep with you after you say this is it for me, they don't feel like they should do their part and take care of if you have children for them or pay you any alimony. All they can see is that you're going to take care of another man with the money they're giving you. I mean, that is the most incensed, stupid stuff I've ever heard of. I was saying to Kevin, I remember my mom took my dad to child support. And my dad put, and this is years ago in like the 80s, put 35 Jamaican dollars once. My dad never supported me financially, but all the successes in my life, he's always basking in it. And oh, my daughter, my daughter. But how did I get here? It wasn't because of your support. And that I don't understand that. How can you think whatever you're giving a woman who has whether one or multiple children for you, she's going to take that money and take care of some other man? There is light, there's water, there's clothes. Kids are always growing and changing. After school activities, whatever you're paying, it will never be enough.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we can move on to love and marriage. You all right, Memes? It's okay.
You got this story at your system, or we're going to have to talk about it next week? Because if we talk about it next week, I need to read the story.
I guarantee you, we're going to hear more and more stories of this, and people, men, women, whoever, being more and more creative and deceptive. Mm-hmm. So, and it doesn't matter what someone tell you and who they are. Clearly, this story, because of who he is, has gone around the world. So now I guess men feel like they're clued up in what they can do. She won't get anything if I put it in my family's name. That's terrible. It's awful, but I hope they're ready.
And again, it goes back to how you was raised, and I'm pretty sure his mom was in his ear. Don't let one of these little gold diggers take your money, put it in my name, so in case something happened, they won't take your money.
No.
I'm pretty sure he was taught that, because a lot of athletes are taught that, because there are a lot of gold diggers who
but like you always say, not everybody is a gold digger. Okay, not everybody wants what you have, irrespective of what you have. Your chances
increase tremendously when you are athlete with millions of dollars. That women are going to be coming after you because they know you're making coins.
But here's the thing: when you say that, where are your values? Because you should be able to identify if the person is just there for what you can do for them. Because I'm telling you, a woman with class and her own stuff, she don't want what you have.
Those 19-year-olds athletes ain't looking at that. They looking at a trophy to go on their arms. Like, how good does she look? How long is her hair? How fine is she?
Then you pay the price. Then you know what the deal is. Then what do they say? You get the money, then you have the power. Well, then you know what you're paying for. And the thing is, reading further into that story is that it's not that it's something he created once he met her. In Europe, you finish high school at 16. So he's had his football contract for quite some time. When she met him, he wasn't making €1 million a month, but over the years, that's what his paycheck has been. Either way, I don't care what he makes and who he is. My point is treating people that you claim to love with such disrespect. You went before whoever you pray to, I don't know, they must be Muslim or whoever they are, whoever it is that you're praying to, that you're going to take care of this person that you say is your spouse. And when it comes down to it, you don't want them to have nothing, not your children and not your soon-to-be ex-wife. They can go kick rocks, is what you're saying. That's terrible. And I hope he's always in good health, okay? And he never needs anyone. Awful.
I don't know. Love and Marriage Huntsville,
season 6, episode 3.
Yes.
Hasta Latisha, baby.
Yeah, and if y'all are familiar with this story that my friend Kay keeps talking about, please leave your comments below. and let us know your thoughts on this.
I read a few of our viewers, our listeners' comments,
Mhm.
and a majority of them could understand, at least people with sense. You have the one or two that were like, yeah, good for him. But the majority, I would say probably 85% of our listeners was like, it's so disrespectful, especially when you're talking about people who are looking for a meaningful relationship. This is a blow to relationships. Why would you, if you have your own stuff, why would you want to be in one if this is what people are going to do?
And I'm
You're
gonna just
saying
say
you,
19-year-old don't know what a
he's not
meaningful relationship
19. He
is.
is not 19. He is 25. He's 24, 25 now.
They don't know what a meaningful relationship is, unfortunately. But Love and Marriage Huntsville, season 6, episode 3. And so, what did you think about last night's episode, Kay?
I don't have much to say. I mean, it was heavily based on Latisha, and I'm not a huge fan, and she sounded like I'm so I really don't have anything. So
Well,
you
I
can take
do.
it away.
I do because the thing with that whole issue with her and Kiki, the thing that I realized with Leticia last night, and when we talk about this, Love and Marriage Huntsville, it's not just us talking about Love and Marriage Huntsville. It's for us to look at the episode and see what life lessons that we can draw from it. So, one of the things that I would like for our listeners to draw from the episode, if you're a Love and Marriage Huntsville fan, is accountability. It was so amazing to me how Leticia kept wanting her cousin to take accountability for what she had said and the things she had said about her marriage, but she did not want to take accountability for what she had said to Mel and Marcel. And so that sort of disturbed me a little bit because I know there are people like that outside of the Love and Marriage Huntsville crew. You do something, whether it's hurtful or not, and you don't want to take accountability. And she was just hounding her to take accountability, like, hey, you shouldn't have been with Mel and the girls talking about my marriage. I'm your cousin, I'm your family. But the same shoe didn't apply to you. She was your family. Why did you have to go tell them about her drug addiction? And so I hope our listeners understand the importance of taking accountability and being able to just look in the role that you play sometime in these disputes, because it's easy to look at somebody else. It's easy to point the finger. It's easy to look at the speck in somebody else's eye. But what about the plank that's hanging out of your own eye? Because if truth be told, it was Latisha that did this first. It was her that went to Mel and Marcel, which in turn made Kiki say, oh, well, if she want to tell my business, let's talk about her and Marcel, you know. And so I just thought that was real um tacky. I didn't think she took no accountability. Even when Kiki apologized, I'm like, okay, now Kiki has apologized and said she wanted to move forward. Maybe Tisha would apologize. Did she get an apology? Absolutely not. She just said, okay, well, let's see what happens. I'm like, really?
But doesn't this go back to what we've been discussing and what we've coming to realize what relationships are? Because that's the journey we've been on these last couple of years, talking about relationship. Even with this football player, it's about accountability and your responsibility in that relationship. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't come down to someone's age. And Tisha, that's the issue Mel has with her. She never wants to take accountability or responsibility for the reckless things that she says, and she does to get a rise out of
To keep
people.
saying age doesn't matter, Kate, and it absolutely does,
She
because I
doesn't.
wouldn't expect a young person to take accountability like I would at 30 or 40 some years. We were talking about fully grown women in their 40s.
Excuse me, you have 60 and 70-year-olds that won't take accountability for the
Yeah,
things they think that because they are
they
60
should
and
know better.
70, they don't have to. So I'm
But
grown.
Kate,
No,
the
it's about
older
having
you get,
respect.
you should know better. You should know better. Like eighth
So
grade,
you should
I
know,
don't.
when you're dealing with people, you should know how to treat people. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't have any. You
Not
see,
if that's not
and
how you was raised.
so when you get to 60, you weren't raised that way. You expect them to know.
No,
Like
as you
you
get
said,
older,
if your life experience hasn't been that way, how are you expected to know?
just living life. As you live
What kind
life,
of life?
any kind of life, any life gonna bring you life lessons, and you're gonna have consequences for your actions. If you get out there, say for instance, you were taught to steal coming up, but when you get out there and get to stealing and you get locked up, that's gonna teach you a lesson. Hey, I'm not supposed to be doing that.
No,
Life is the greatest teacher.
it's
And
interpretation. It's
you can have
interpretation.
expectations of a child as you do an adult. I'm
It,
sorry.
that's up for interpretation, because you can go steal, get locked up, and decide, okay, this ain't it. Or you could say, okay, I need to tighten up and come up with some better stealing skills.
And some people do that, but it just depends on your character and the person you are. But some things, especially when it comes to relationships, my expectations wouldn't be as high for a 19-year-old as it would be a 40-year-old woman. But with that being said, I think Latisha should have most definitely took accountability for her part. I think she should have apologized to her cousin, just
She's
like her
another
cousin
one with double
apologized to her.
standards.
And
She's
another
another one.
thing,
She has double standards. She went to the reunion with that clown stuff with the ventriloquist, and Tiff had her socks, and that was a problem. Why are you
yeah,
upset?
yeah. Another thing that sitting there watching the cousins have a conversation, it reminded me, and we also talk about this when it comes to relationships. And when we're talking about relationships, it's just not husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend. It can be family, co-worker relationships for our KayFeinators. It's not only accountability, communication, and how important it is, because one of the things that Tisha asked her was, hey, is it something going on? Were you mad at me for a particular reason? And she actually told her, yeah, you know what? I had some issues, with some other things that had happened. So this issue went a little bit deeper than them just telling each other business. There was some underlying resentment. There was some underlying hurt that Kiki had on her part, because she was like, when I was going through my drug addiction and I really needed you, you wasn't there. And because of that, I had some underlying hurt and resentment. And so, Tisha told her, yeah, I'm the one put you in rehab, but I couldn't keep helping you and keep hurting myself trying to help you, which makes sense, because sometimes we'll try to help people at our own detriment, which is the life lesson, don't try to save somebody else and you drowning at the same time. But because she felt like, hey, you just put me in rehab and then you just, abandoned me. She was hurt by that. But how important would that have been to have that conversation with your cousin? So all this time you've been harboring that underlying resentment because you wasn't there for me. And then look what way it came out. So communication is so important. And maybe if they had communicated, they would have never gotten to this point.
And it is definitely a skill, and sometimes people don't like to hear someone else's perspective or point of view of how they feel that you may have treated them, especially when it's not praise. But listen, this is how you made me feel. Not everybody is open to that. And Latisha, in all these seasons, this being season 6, she don't mind dragging someone, but hell, if you tell her something about herself, like, girl, she don't like it,
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. And that was what my problem with last night episode. She kept wanting to, say that her cousin did this, but you never want to take accountability that you did the exact same thing.
yeah,
You did the exact same thing. And
it's
you're not
okay.
supposed to take accountability. You're not supposed to apologize, but she's supposed to apologize and take accountability. I thought that was tacky. What did you think about Marcel's dad being on the show last night?
I agree with his dad, which is, in everything you do, there should be a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be out there chasing the money or chasing whatever you're chasing, and you're gonna look up one day and your family gonna be grown and gone, and you're not gonna recognize your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he be on some stupid stuff. I don't even know if they're portraying exactly who they are as people, so I can't
Mm-hmm.
get a read on him or Latisha. So
Mm-hmm.
even after
Well, I
6
think
seasons,
Marcel is
yeah,
portraying who he is.
I don't
From
know.
people that I know in Huntsville or that Kayla know in Huntsville, said that's who Marcel is.
Which is
That
what?
his cocky arrogance, but I actually like Marcel. I'm a Marcel fan. Marcel and Maurice are two of my favorites on the show. It used to be Mel, but now it's Marcel. Well, it was Marcel. Now it's after Maurice stood by Kimmy, they are my fans.
I like Kimmy. I think she's a no nonsense, straight down the middle. With people like that, you know where you stand. But
Mhm.
but all them other ones, and my girl Mel,
I like
um,
her this season, right before the cancer
I've always liked
diagnosis.
Kimmy.
She has started getting. I used to like her all the time too, but that one season, and I think that was season either 4 or 5. It had to be season 4 because I think in season 5 they talked about the cancer, but season 4 she got real messy, real petty, real. And I'm like, this show is changing her. But then I think with the whole cancer diagnosis, we're beginning to see the real Kimmy again. Because I noticed a lot of the fans were in other blogs and stuff talking about, like, this ain't Kimmy. What's going on? That she's been so petty and so messy. So she had started falling off the radar for me. But I think this whole cancer diagnosis has brought her back to reality. And I think this season we're seeing the Kimmy that we fell in love with season one, the no nonsense, like you're talking about, no nonsense person. But I like that his dad told him, you know, you're making a living, but you're not making a life. And that's so powerful because, you know, again, bringing it back to home and bringing it back to reality, you know, you have so many people doing that. They chasing a dollar only to end up, you know, dead, sick, crippled, blind, and all of the money they work so hard for, they're not even able to enjoy it.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons that Cobbs and I, we travel so much because we work hard. You know, why wait till we get 65? Because we don't know what health we'll be in, and we don't even know if we're gonna live to see 65. So
Right.
why you only have one life, why not enjoy it? And so I see that happen with so many people, and I've known so many people who said, well, we're gonna save all of these coins until we retire, and then they don't even live to see it, which is sad. So I was glad to see their dad, number one. And I'm glad that they sit down and had their heart-to-heart conversation. And even though Marcel maybe didn't say nothing on TV, I'm pretty sure that's something he thought about because you can tell, you know, he had respect for his dad and he was happy to see his dad.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm glad his son said what he said too, to his mom. I wouldn't allow my spouse to speak to me that way. I mean,
Mhm.
this, you know, she's getting up and going to work, but you expect her to still come home and cook and then entertain you in the bedroom. I mean, so what do? You can't just be you going to work. He's so disrespectful. I don't even know
Mhm.
how he has any fan, especially when he was saying, you may be the owner, but I take, I'm like,
Yeah, that's what I
who
was going to talk about next.
that is so,
So
you
speaking
know, I got a
of,
problem with that. I have a
yeah,
problem with that.
yeah. And that was going to be my next point. That was the next point that I've written down, how he talked to Tisha last night. He was so out of order. I'm sorry. He was out of order. I love Marcel, but he was totally out of order. But the thing is, and I say this all the time, I've even said this to my daughter, I've said this to my nieces, I've said this to my cousin. You have to set the standards for how you are treated as a woman. And a man is not going to rise any higher than the standards that you set. He has talked to Tish like this since season one and probably before they even had a TV show. And she has yet to put her you know, her foot down, you know. And so you keep accepting it. So he keep dishing it out. I'm not saying he right for doing it, but how is it that you the
Maybe
owner
it's
of
not
a
a deal
company?
breaker for her.
Huh?
Maybe it's not a deal breaker for her.
But
That's
how
a
is it
thing
that
that
you're
we have to
owner?
also
Wait a minute,
understand.
hey, how is it you're owner of a company?
Mm-hmm.
You walk into your office to do some work. Somebody else is at your desk with their degree on the
I
wall. That, by
agree.
the
I
way, you
agree.
can take a degree in the world, and you just
I
sitting.
agree. But I just told you that the whole episode was her heavy, and the way he speaks, I was like, he married to the right person. Is all I'm saying. Really
Absolutely,
is,
yeah.
because I'd be wearing him out every day of the week. We probably
No,
wouldn't be married anyway, and he
I
wouldn't want to
wouldn't
marry
be
me.
if I was her. I wouldn't be
Sure.
waiting for them. What you tell Kimmy? I'm waiting on him. I'm trying to put the fire button on him to give me another office. No, you need to be trying to get this guy. I'm the owner of this company. You need to wait and build him an office. You know, and he needs to be waiting for office. He gonna get his degree off the wall. He gonna get up out my chair, and this is how we rolling today. And so I would have been in there cutting up
Everything he says is
sideways.
so, it's so misogynistic. It's so chauvinistic. He is just, but
Masculine toxicity,
this is what
the
men,
finest.
and the double standard that I keep talking about
Yeah,
is
masculine
she can't talk
toxicity
to
at
him
its
that way. Have you
finest.
noticed that over the seasons? She dare not raise her voice a decibel because he gonna light her up, and she better think about how she respond to him too.
Mhm.
He married to the right one.
Yeah,
And
that was crazy. It's no way I would have waited for him to fix me an office. No, this guy needs to wait till we get him an office ready because that's my office. Can you kindly take your degree off the wall and get up out of my chair? And had he not gotten up, you know, me, him, and Marcel, I would have went round and round with them. I would not have settled for that as being the owner of a company. And for my husband to tell me that, stay in your place. Oh my goodness, that could not have been me. We would have turned Love Marriage and Huntsville episode out. Did you hear me?
To WWE, and we don't
Okay.
often agree on a lot of stuff. We always seem to have difference in opinions when it comes to stuff, and
We
that's
agree on this,
okay.
huh?
No, well, we agree on this little part. But to say that she's the owner and she has no say, and then for him to make an analogy with just let them do what they do until they run your company into the ground and you say nothing. That's crazy to me. So he brought in, what's that football player that I'm not a fan of his either, this football player. He paid for Baltimore, I think, or Patriots, whatever his name
I don't know anything about sports.
Me either, child. But he brought that in. He's the most coveted, awarded Super Bowl player. Anyway, he said, do you think the owner of the team is down there telling him what to do? And I thought to myself, you are retarded, Marcel. No, but he makes sure he hire people who can tell him. And if he's not performing, guess what the owner is going to do? Because he's not in it to lose money. He's in it to make money, not because you're a celebrity on the team that I own. So for him to speak to her that way, saying, I understand, and this is the thing about leadership. You have to understand in leadership, you may own the company and be the manager, but you don't know everything. So you want to make sure you arm yourself with smart people who can help drive your company or your business or whatever it is that you're trying to do forward. Because everybody have their own skill set and their own qualities that they can bring to a team. But to then tell your wife she just need to go sit in the corner, I had a problem with that last night. When I tell you I couldn't wait for the end of that show, they don't need to do that again. They really don't. I can see why everybody wants a scene with Mel. Tisha ain't it. She is not it. And I think that's what they were doing last night. They were trying to test the waters to see how many people are going to get online and say, oh, they enjoyed that episode. I doubt anyone is going to say that. She can go sit down.
What's going to happen? Everybody going to get on there and they're going to drag Marcel and they're going to tell Tisha what they've always been telling her, how stupid, how naive, how she has no backbone in the marriage. It's going to be the same thing. And they're going to tell Marcel how disrespectful he is.
Where's she going? I mean, again, for her, you have to understand what your deal breakers are. We can be on the outside having an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a deal breaker for her. What did she say? 17, 18, almost 20 years, however long it's been.
I don't think deal breaker or no deal breaker. I don't think any wife or woman is happy with being disrespected. Now, that may not be a deal breaker for you, but to be repeatedly disrespected at some point, because the thing is, it's not just affecting you now, boo. It's also affecting your kids. For your teenage son to tell you, I wouldn't allow somebody. So that's letting you know, even I have a problem with how dad talks to you. Mm-hmm. And so it's one thing for something to just affect you, but then when it go to affecting your babies, if that's not a wake-up call for you, and then you know that you own 85% of this company and that you really the brains of this organization, you know what I'm saying? And we'll probably see this in the next episode where somebody was telling him, she the one made this company money. This company was about to go in the hole, and it's because of her. And I see this all the time, that women, they can be so smart in one area, but so dumb and stupid. Well, I don't want to use the word dumb and stupid. Those are not nice words. But they can be very intelligent in one area and not so intelligent in other areas. And you would think because they're so intelligent in this area that it's going to translate across different areas of their life. And it does not. And Tisha is a prime example of that, because the girl, with no doubt, you can see she has the intelligence when it comes to business, when it comes to like she's building a brokerage firm, when it comes to real estate. She has that knowledge, no doubt about it, hands down. But her knowledge and her intelligence, it don't cross over into her marriage life,
and it shouldn't
her
have
friendships,
to, because what she does in business shouldn't have to translate. Because my mom would often say that, and for me that is definitely a negative connotation when someone say you're too bright and intelligent for that. What does that have to do with anything? What I do for a profession should not have to do anything with on a personal level. Like,
yes, it does, Kay.
No, it does not. Absolutely not. No, it doesn't. It does not. So, and we've talked about
I see
this.
where you're going with that, though. I see where you're going with that. But to
So,
some
wait,
extent,
let me finish. Prime example. I have a cousin that owes me money, and I've told you about this. And I'm talking to my mom about that. My mom is like, "Oh, you're too smart and intelligent for that." I said, "Sometimes I want to be ignorant like the rest of them. You borrowed my money, and you're now not answering my phone calls, and I'm having to cuss you all the way out, every which way of Sunday. I can get ghetto and ignorant with the best of them. But why would you want to bring me there other than, hey, cuz I'm sorry, here, whatever the case may be. So why should I take the high road while you have my money on vacation every other week and you owe me my money? I didn't beg you to come borrow my money. You picked up your phone and called me. Now, when I get with you and respond to you the way you want to be out there and whoop the wooing, it's a problem. No, I disagree. And if anyone out there understand where I'm coming from, let me know.
Understand where you're coming from. But I think, well, let me sort of, and I'm not trying to backpedal on what I say because I clearly see where you're going with that point. But sometimes, maybe I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna word it like this. Maybe our
Looks like
expectations.
here she
Maybe
go.
our
You went out. You hung up.
What about now?
Yeah, you're coming in now.
Okay. So I'm not trying to backpedal on what I'm saying, but maybe our expectations, I want to word it a little bit different. Maybe our expectations of people who are bright and intelligent. Now, what you're talking about with your cousin is different. That's just you going to ghetto. That has nothing to do with your intelligence. That's just you being ghetto. Because sometimes you have to get ghetto, especially with family members, because they will take you there. But sometimes people can be so bright in one area. So I see what you're saying. Just because I'm smart in nursing or whatever, or real estate, don't mean I have to be smart in other areas.
No.
But I think to some point, your intelligence should transition a little bit, because how can you be so smart just as an individual, and when it comes to Marcel, you so, and I don't like using the word dumb.
And I don't think
it doesn't matter, Kay. How can you?
But isn't that what we all do when it comes to people that we care and love? That we do have a blind spot until they whittled you down until like you start to lose that love and respect, and then you're able to see those things. Because hello,
okay, this man moved her out of her office.
and again, it may not be a deal breaker for her. It's a space. It's a space.
This man told her she couldn't even hang her degree on the wall, but she comes in to find somebody else's degree on the wall.
If she wanted to, she could. She didn't want to. Because I don't think that was anything for her to even have asked Marcel if she could. You're like a kid. What you mean?
Why would she say that he wouldn't even let me hang my degree on the wall?
Because she's ridiculous. That's why.
Then
anyway,
let me ask you this question before we end. Do you think he didn't allow her to hang her degree on the wall because he's intimidated by her intelligence and by her degrees? That you can look at this man's degree, but you can't look at your wife's degree?
I don't know. I'm not a fan of Marcel or Tish, so I don't know. I don't know if it's jealousy or what. They just take up space, honestly. And I'm really hoping it's just the way they cut the film, but they don't come across well to me, and they haven't since season 1, and now we're in season 6. So,
well, I know you're trying to end this, but because I don't want to bring it up next week, I have to say this about Tiffany when they did the spa day. Tiffany was being so messy. First, she came in talking to Mel about Kiki, and I'm like, and Mel was trying to give her a hint, like, girl, we in this like environment, it's nice, the music is going, and she just kept going. And then they get over into the room, and she's still going, and I'm like, you are such a petty woman. That's another person I do not care for, is Tiffany. I don't know why they have her and her husband back on the show. But what I thought about was, you was at the event with Kiki and the whole of Christmas party. And not one time did you part your lips to say, hey, why are you talking about your cousin? This is your family. You didn't have anything to say. Now all of a sudden, oh, I got an issue because this was your family. How are you gonna do? Like, boo, where is energy coming from? You didn't have this energy at Christmas time. And so the Whitlows, for me, the Whitlows have to go. That's all I'm saying. Now you can end the podcast. I want to be clear on the Whitlows.
I did not. I think Tiffany, she can ask whatever she wants, but I think she should have respected what Mel had to say. And they all knew what they were doing. They all knew why they were asking Mel that question to get her to say something negatively. And instead of respecting her boundaries, they just pushed past it and kept going and
It
pushing and
wasn't no
pushing.
day. It wasn't a day. It was Tiffany.
Yeah, no, wasn't Stormy in that room too?
No,
And
Stormy
she
just
even
heard.
spoke to
No,
the
Stormy
camera.
heard Kimmy kept saying her name because she said, "I didn't just say you, Kiki. I also said Stormy." And Stormy heard her name and said, "Hey, we finna go over there." But no, that was just Tiffany kept asking Mel that. Just one person, Tiffany.
Who else was in the room with them? It was three of them that were in the room.
It was Mel, Tiffany, and Stormy. But when Tiffany was kept asking Mel that, Stormy didn't say anything. She was just looking. And then Tisha, Kimmy, and Kiki was in the room. And Kiki ended up trying to read Kimmy. She wanted to read everybody, let everybody know they were wrong instead of just letting it go. And Stormy came over because she heard her name and she said, "Okay, what y'all got to say about Stormy?" And and the reason Stormy name come up because Kimmy was trying to tell Kiki, "I didn't just say you was talking about her. I was also, talking about Stormy was talking about her. So it wasn't just you." And so,
Right.
but yeah, that was Tiffany that was started pushing at Mel, and Mel wasn't going. Mel,
Well,
like, I don't got time for the
I'm glad my
nonsense.
girl Mel did not fall for the okie doke. And she like, I ain't got nothing. I'm trying to enjoy this ambiance, and good for her. And another thing that you had just said was about expectation. And we've talked about that word throughout since we've started this podcast. And I'm telling my young girls and young ladies, whatever it is you're looking for in a relationship, make sure you are clear in what you want and you verbalize that. Do not have expectations in another person unless they said that this is what you can expect from them. Because it's just like I've always said, you might be expecting because he's a man, he should be cutting the grass, he should be fixing the car. He may not want to be outside and cut the grass and fix cars, but you need to know that. Like, I always talk about this cooking thing, and whenever I mention it, Fee's like, "Oh, can't." But I'm serious about that because Kevin keeps talking about coming home and having a cooked meal when we're living together. I'm like, and I'm telling him now, listen, if that's a need for you and that's what you're expecting, I'm telling you now, that's not gonna happen. Am I gonna say that when I feel like it, I might make a meal? Sure. But if you're coming home expecting a cooked meal every day of the week, it's not gonna happen. And if that's something that you're going to need and expect, I may not be the girl for you. And it's okay. And I need people to understand in the things that you're needing out of a relationship, it's okay if that person do not meet those needs. And for you to then like, listen, this isn't for me and move on. A lot of things that I keep hearing coming up lately is that we're not we keep going into relationships seeing potential. We have to stop that thinking about what these people can be. And no, whatever the person is today, that's the best they can be. And if you can handle whoever they are today, then okay, move forward. If not, be on your way. Women, we need to start doing it like men do, thinking of this like one big grocery store, because clearly they're not in with the program. Anyway,
And on that note, caffeinators,
let us know your
KayFeinators,
thoughts on this episode, and I guess we'll speak to you next week. I'm Kay,
yes, I'm Fee.
and you've been listening to KayFeine Conversation. Talk to you next week.